This is the Saturday morning interview. My name is Geoffrey Onditi. Last week on the Saturday morning interview, we had a conversation about the role of technology in mitigating the effects of climate change, especially drought. Today, we are continuing the conversation and our specific focus is biotechnology, its safety and benefits. My guest is Dr. Margaret Karembu, the Director International Service for Acquisition of Agri-biotech Applications, ISAAA, and the Chair Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa, OFAB. So, what do you think? Should biotechnology be utilized for crop production in Kenya? Share your views on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page. Welcome again, Dr. Margaret Karembu from ISAAA and OFAB.
Thank you, Onditi.
Have you been a whole week now?
Oh yes, it has been a week of a lot of activities. We have seen a lot of news on biotechnology in the media, but I also need to tell you that I'm now registered voter, so I'm waiting to see who comes in the debe so that I can also make my choice.
What I can only say is vote wisely.
Thank you, I will do that. Yeah, I'm just watching the space.
As we continue our conversation about biotechnology from last week, we talked about biotechnology and how it can be used in terms of mitigating the effects of climate change, especially drought, because we are facing drought even though it rained within the week. So, Dr. when we talk about the safety of this technology or biotechnology, what do we mean exactly?
This is a very important concern because many of our public out there are asking themselves, are GMOs safe or not safe? And it is a very genuine question, very genuine concern because we all want to have safe food and we want to be healthy. And what we have gathered from both the international and even local scenes in Africa, where biosafety authorities have scrutinized the applications for introduction of GM crops, they undergo thorough safety assessment. And so when the decision is made about planting or placing in the market, the products are safe as their counterparts. At least those that have been approved over the last 21 years or so have not indicated any form of ill effect as a result of consuming by human beings, by livestock, or even in the environment. So I would say that for the products, GM products that are already in the market that have gone through biosafety approval, those are safe to eat.
Even before we go to regulatory mechanisms that are there, I want you as a scientist to take me through the safety processes of biotechnology or utilizing this biotechnology, especially for crop production or for food production especially.
Thank you. Very important again. Now, when you talk about safety assessment, there are certain standard characteristics that food safety experts check for. For example, you want to check whether after engineering your crop, you are going to have additional risks to the human being in terms of either developing more allergies or maybe becoming less nutritious than the conventional crop, or even producing some things that may be poisonous to the body. So these are the three main attributes. And so when they are checking, they check thoroughly whether the gene or the attribute that you have genetically engineered that crop for has any likelihood of producing that effect. If it doesn't have, then it gets a tick. I can tell you that, from a scientist's perspective, before any approval is made, tests are run. Hundreds of tests are run to ensure that the probability of introducing any new allergen, any new poisonous substance, or even any form of reducing the nutrition of the crop are concerned. And this is what these are the attributes that scientists check for. And
Dr. Karembu, when you're talking about getting for example, the original maize, when you've used this technology, is that really possible?
That is very possible because what scientists have done, especially crop scientists, these days there's data analyzing every crop to find out its nutritional composition, its potential for causing or reducing any form of nutrition. And so when the tests are done, they are done and they are compared with the standard agreed characteristics and the content that each of the crop should have, ideally. And that is why we talk about substantial equivalent, meaning that it should be very much close to the original crop.
Dr. Karembu, when we talk about the safety of this technology or biotechnology, let's talk about the politics and the activism that has been going on concerning this biotechnology. Why is it that there are some people or many people who are not for this technology, yet there are also those that are for this technology?
One of the major causes of this is information overload, especially in the internet. Google, even in the rural areas now, everybody talks about go to the internet and search. And by the way, even for doctors these days, they're having a very rough time, because by the time the patients are going to see a doctor, they have Googled and they have found what they're suffering from and what they need as medication. In fact, they go and tell the doctor, I want this medication, not that medication. The same case is happening with this technology, which is quite unfortunate, because there has been a few papers that have been generated, and if you go to the internet, because of the emotional attachment to food, the kind of beliefs and mindsets that people have about food that is natural. There's a misconception about natural being good and genetically engineered being bad. So organic, traditional, people, I see a lot of these responses, even recently, this week, the whole of this week in the media. People talk about, let's go natural, let's eat organic, let's eat our traditional foods. But when you consider where we have come from and where the global community has come from in terms of improvement of our basic crops like maize, like bananas, like sweet potato, we can no longer say that we have something called traditional, because every year scientists are breeding and they're coming up with a new product, a new variety, which is aimed at doing better than the previous variety. It's more or less like information technology. Remember the kind of cell phones we used to have at the beginning? You could carry them, you needed a basket to carry the phone. So basically the world changes and the technologies do not actually change linearly. It is a wholesome package. So the changes that are taking place in the information technology, in the biological systems, changes are also taking place. So we really don't have anything like original. Foods are being changed. You realize that the productivity of maize, for example, has changed, has increased. We used to have maize that had a few lines with very big seeds. 1 acre could not get 1 ton or even less. But now you have maize seed that can produce even over 3 tons per hectare.
And that is the use of this technology. So when you talk about safety and the regulatory framework or the mechanism, where are we in terms of regulating this technology in this country?
In Kenya, we already have a National Biosafety Authority, and I was very encouraged the other day to hear the Chief Executive of the National Biosafety Authority assuring Kenyans that whatever they're going to approve that will go through their hands in terms of checking, expertise check, will be safe as any other food, for their livestock, for feed, and even for the environment. And so Kenyans, we need to believe in our institutions, because it's only the institutions that we have set that can help us get out of this problem of a mindset that technologies or products of GM are bad or good. Then secondly, it's important for us to consider that with scientific developments, scientific community internationally use more or less the same standards. So when we talk about homegrown, natural, what we need to remember that we are part of the global community. The scientists in Kenya rely a lot on what other scientists have done, and of course they also make significant contributions to making these standards. So once standards are agreed upon by the scientific community, it does not matter where they are used, they will still produce a product that will be safe for humanity.
When we talk about the National Biosafety Authority, we also have policies, and we know people who make policies in this country. Are they supporting these initiatives of ensuring that we have biotech crops in this country and they are secure?
From a policy perspective, Kenya has a National Biotechnology Development Policy. This one was endorsed and passed by Cabinet in 2006. It's very important for Kenyans to know that we already have a policy.
And that is 11 years ago.
11 years ago,
yes.
That outlines the areas that the government will support for technology use, biotechnology specifically. Then in 2009, the Parliament of Kenya passed a biosafety law. And that biosafety law is the one that outlines how GM crops are going to be approved, how they are going to be assessed, and what kind of institutions are going to be there. And that is where the National Biosafety Authority came from. That is why it was formed. So in terms of separating science and politics, it is very very important. Our politicians, with a lot of respect for them, is, they guide us in the policy and legislation. Now, the scientists come up with the evidence. And so, for the politicians, their role is to ensure that the safety guards are being followed, and then they allow the scientists to produce the evidence that is required for them to make informed policies.
When we talked last week, you mentioned 3 countries that are practicing biotechnology already. That is South Africa, Burkina Faso, and Sudan. What is their position in terms of ensuring that these crops are secure and they are utilizing biotechnology in a safe way?
These countries that you have mentioned already have their biosafety authorities in place, and they rely on the decisions that are made by their biosafety authorities to make decisions on what to plant. And so there are 3 crops. We have maize, cotton, and soybean. These are the 3 crops that are currently being grown in African soil as far as GMOs are concerned. When it comes to a crop like cotton, I mentioned last week that we do have the crop. It's already being grown in over, at least by 2015, we know that we had close to 500,000 hectares. In those countries, the approach they use is what we call the value chain approach. So when you approve a crop like GM cotton, genetically modified cotton, what it means is that you use the fiber, which, by the way, is just about 30%. The lint is 30%. The rest, which is 67% or so, is what we call the byproducts. And these byproducts are the ones you produce oil, and you produce a seed cake for livestock. Now, if a country starts approving products piecemeal, that you can use the fiber, but you cannot use the seed and the byproducts,
yes,
what it means then is that farmers and the stakeholders within that sector will not be able to get any benefits at all from that crop.
Yes, we'll talk about some economic benefits because you mentioned the word benefits. But when we talk about our very own National Biosafety Authority, and in terms of enhancing this biotechnology in this country, has it been significant in this country, NBA?
I wouldn't really want to talk or judge the National Biosafety Authority, but we have seen them grow. We have seen them get various experts in different border points to ensure that they're doing surveillance and ensuring if any GM crops are coming into the country, they are tracked. And they also use some of the state-of-the-art laboratories that are within the country.
Yes.
They may not have their own, which actually when they were being formed, they were not to have a laboratory of their own. We have other regulatory agencies that serve in the board of the National Biosafety Authority that have these facilities.
So there are many stakeholders within NBA or National Biosafety Authority.
Oh yes, we have regulators like the Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEFIS. We have the Kenya Bureau of Standards. We have the National Environment Management Authority. We have Public Health. And all these institutions, they are regulators in their own right, and they do have laboratories availed to the National Biosafety Authority on need basis.
This is the Saturday morning interview. Today, our focus is biotechnology, its safety and benefits for Africa. I'm speaking with Dr. Margaret Karembu, the Director International Service for Acquisition of Agri-biotech Applications, ISAAA, and the Chair of the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa, OFAB. So, what do you think? Should biotechnology be utilized for crop production in Kenya? Share your views on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page. Welcome again, Dr. Margaret Karembu.
Thank you.
Dr. When we talk about biotechnology, obviously there should be economic benefits because you are enhancing this technology in this country and also within the region that is Africa. When we talk about economic benefits, which are some of these benefits?
Thank you. That's very important because nobody wants to do anything that has no benefits, and nobody wakes up in the morning to make losses. I think
Yes.
that is where we sometimes forget when we talk about other people benefiting than others. But I would say that the GM technology has quite a number of benefits, and I would look at the different categories of stakeholders that benefit. For example, when it comes to farmers, remember, before you even make a decision to use the technology, you weigh other options to ensure that you have not left out any other option or intervention that could help that crop. So by the time you invest in the technology, you look at the most of the damaging either pest or insect, or the most of what value in terms of nutrition you'd add to a crop that would benefit the biggest number of people. So coming to insects, the different crops that are available in the marketplace, for example, are addressing some of the most damaging or most challenging diseases for farmers, where traditional crop breeding has not been able to do. So I'll give an example of cotton, genetically modified cotton. When you look at cotton, the most damaging pest is one very stubborn pest called bollworm. Now this bollworm damages the balls, the balls of cotton that open up now to give us the fiber, and then they eat the seed. If you don't control bollworm, farmers can lose up to 50+% of their crop. Now, if you have a farmer in South Africa who is using BT cotton, genetically modified cotton, and you have a farmer in Kenya who is not using BT cotton, the difference is the farmer in South Africa will spray only about 2 to 3 times before he harvests. The farmer in Kenya, to control that bollworm, you require to spray 8, 9 to 10 times before you can harvest.
That is within a period of?
Within that season. It also means that you release time to tend to other crops in the field. And what we have seen, even in Burkina Faso, for example, farmers were able to release a lot of time from tendering cotton to growing food crops. So it also improves on increasing food for the family. In Sudan here, we have seen that farmers have been able to sell 2 to 3 times the produce they were getting from the same piece of land. So again, that has another spillover effect as a benefit to the environment. When you produce more in the same piece of land, it means then that you reduce encroachment to virgin lands or to lands that you can use for conservation, for example, and that is why the technology also benefits the environment a lot, environmental conditions, our surroundings. You have less chemicals in the environment, in the air, in the water, in the soil. You have less residues, pesticide residues, the chemicals that remain after you have sprayed, and even the rains have come and washed off most of it. And also, you are not exposed. Other organisms in the environment are not exposed to these harmful chemicals. So it actually improves on the biological systems and the other very valuable insects like bees, like butterflies that help us in pollinating our other crops, food crops. Then when it comes to the consumer also benefits because you get better quality produce. And because the cost of production is reduced, then even the cost that you pay as a consumer for this produce is much less. So you benefit by getting cheaper food. And you also, if you compare India, China, and now here Sudan that are now growing a lot of BT cotton. I said China grows more than 4 million hectares. India is growing more than 10 million hectares. And the vibrancy of the cotton sector is amazing. The ginaries are able to employ so many people, so that is another very big benefit. And when you consider a country like Kenya where you have very high unemployment rate, if you produce more raw material for cotton, it means that you're able to employ more people, more of our young people in the ginaries, the textile industries. So many people. We are training people to do textile and design, but what do they design? They design from foreign imported material. Remember the days of Kikomi, Raymonds, and others, and Rivertex. Yes. And we are encouraged that Rivertex is being revived, and it is our belief that by reviving Rivertex, the government is also going to put measures, not just government, also other stakeholders in the cotton subsector are going to put measures to ensure that we get BT cotton, because it is the one that will assure enough raw material for the ginaries and the textile industries to run, hopefully 12 hours, and in the long run, 24 hours. Then our people in the rural areas, in the urban areas will have better clothing, because now there are better technologies. Somebody was saying it the other day that Raymonds, Rivertex were not producing good quality, but now the cutting edge technology that is available for the textile industry and the number of partners out there who are ready to share this technology with Kenya to also invest in the textile industry. And when they invest, they employ more people. So there are very big benefits that the technology brings to a country.
Yes. Dr. As we are winding up the Saturday morning interview, because we've talked about the safety of biotechnology and also the benefits benefits, especially for the farmers and generally the economic benefits. So having known all these benefits and also having been assured of the safety of this technology, why has it taken so long for a country like Kenya, or a poor country, why has it taken long for adoption of this technology here?
I would say there are three reasons.
Yes.
One of them is a lot of misinformation, because misinformation is dangerous because it becomes difficult to formulate policies that will support a cause. And it is so unfortunate to hear even members of parliament having gathered a lot of that misinformation and using that to make recommendations that would further stifle technology adoption in this country. Secondly, we have the problem of those, regulatory systems.
Yes.
The regulatory system is such that it is so expensive for a public sector researcher to actually bring a product to the market. And we need to work very hard on that, because the regulatory system should be, of course, effective, cost efficient, and it should also be predictable. It should not be subjected to other political interference. I keep saying that if only we could separate science, technical issues from the politics, then this country would move very fast. But as you know, I think Kenya, we eat, feed, sleep on politics, which is very unfortunate, because now we are missing out on these opportunities that are coming. You'd see millions worth of Kenya shillings are lost every day because we are spending so much time politicking instead of leaving politics to the politicians and then leaving the technical people to concentrate on developing innovations that are going to help this country. The third aspect, of course, is that of suspicion and, these self-interests and a lot of misgivings about a technology just because of lack of familiarity. And this is where research is so important, because it is only through research that the Kenyan society can be able to see from very close proximity, very closely in their fields, in the demonstration farms, that this produce of biotechnology are not any different from the other products that they see in the fields. If you don't do research, you'll never produce the evidence you need to even confirm or ascertain whether a product is safe or not, or whether it is going to perform or not. So what we need is open up space for research, support research. We should not let research just to be supported by a few. We all need to be involved, and for this matter, the government also needs to set a good kitty for supporting research on biotechnology. We need to embrace partnerships, because public-private partnerships work very well in that. Most of the times, when an opportunity comes up, you realize that the private sector is very fast investing in it. Once the private sector invests, for those who are willing to share the expertise and to help develop the country's skill and capability for the technology, then it is so important. And that is how different countries, Brazil, India, China, US, and others, they have develop the technology because they have embraced public-private partnerships. You cannot demonize the private sector, because the private sector is the one that actually helps in opening up markets.
Yes.
The public sector does the research.
Thank you very much for your time, Daktari.
I hope we'll get some more time. Onditi, we really need to interrogate this technology, and we do appreciate the concerns that the Kenyan society have, and it is only fair that they give the scientists an opportunity to also clarify these misconceptions. And I'm really happy that you have taken up that mantle, and we hope that we'll continue with you on this.
Thank you very much. And with that, we come to the end of the Saturday morning interview. Today, we focused on the safety and benefits of agricultural biotechnology. Have been speaking with Dr. Margaret Karembu, the Director, International Service for the Acquisition of Agri-biotech Applications, ISAAA, and the Chair, Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology in Africa, OFAB. You can still share your comments or views about the use of biotechnology for crop production on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page. Till next week, my name is Geoffrey Onditi.